Well, the Boston Globe recently named the top 100 businesses in Massachusetts led by women. One of those on the list was the head of a nonprofit. In this case, it's a pioneering nonprofit that brought relief to people victimized by predatory lending. It's called Boston Community Capital, and we'd like to welcome its CEO, Elyse Cherry. Thank you very much for being with us, Elyse.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, Boston Community Capital existed long before that lending and mortgage crisis of the past decade or so. But talk about transforming that organization and doing new things to meet the new challenges.
Sure. Well, we actually started 30 years ago. We were originally a single line in that we did lending in and around the Boston area, primarily for affordable housing. Now we've expanded into a national organization. We finance community facilities, daycare centers, and charter schools, and health centers, and grocery stores. We do a lot of affordable housing work still. We do a lot of solar. We get solar panels up in the roofs of affordable housing developments and nonprofits. I think we have about 1,100 panels up on the roof, for example, of the Greater Boston Food Bank, which helps save them about $40,000 a year in their electrical costs. We've invested in businesses that create social returns as well as financial returns. And we have the SUN initiative. SUN stands for Stabilizing Urban Neighborhoods, but it is our initiative for helping people who are in default or foreclosure stay in their homes with a new fixed-rate mortgage that they can afford.
How has the program worked out?
Well, it's been very successful. We have now stabilized better than 750 families. We're in 5 states. We've lent probably about $140 million. We have saved almost $50 million in terms of a reduction in outstanding principal amount. We've gotten people's monthly housing expense down between 35% and 40%, depending on our market. And the thing that I'm really most proud of is that we have a default rate that really looks like the national average for all residential mortgages, despite the fact that virtually everyone we deal with is lower income and in default or foreclosure.
You know, based on what I've seen of your work in Boston, I have to assume that if you didn't help these families, what would have happened to those units of housing is they could have been picked up by scamsters and having more bad loans come into play.
Well, they certainly could have. And another piece of the problem is as people go through the foreclosure process, those homes tend to become vacant for a period of time. And then there's an issue about how they're maintained and who's mowing the grass, and really what vacant homes do to the value of homes in the surrounding area. We all want to live in neighborhoods that are vibrant, not neighborhoods that are really pockmarked by homes that people have been evicted from and that are now coming into bad repair before they're rebought.
We're talking with Elyse Cherry from Boston Community Capital. Elyse, before you worked for Boston Community Capital, you were a lawyer working for developers, maybe some bigger projects. I mean, how does that transition? A lot of people say they want to do the big stuff, but you're doing this.
Well, I've gone in the other direction, yes. And in the old days, I was a partner at Hale & Dorr doing real estate finance and development transactions. And you're absolutely right. We would work on large industrial parks or shopping centers or skyscrapers. But, you know, it turns out that the skills that are necessary to make those projects go forward really are also necessary to help low-income neighborhoods and populations go forward. So part of what we've really done, and it's not just me, I have a fabulous staff at Boston Community Capital, and we all bring these sets of skills. We've really taken a set of financial structuring skills that are ordinarily used to create wealth in some different populations and for business, and actually put them to work creating better conditions in low-income communities and trying to create more wealth for low-income people.
Well, you're also responsible for conditions in the workplace, and you've done some things that maybe are a bit ahead of the curve, or were ahead of the curve as far as, let's say, LGBT partners and things like that. Talk about that.
Sure. Well, sometimes I say, you know, if you're in charge and you can't make a place be what you want it to be, you haven't got much business complaining when other people don't do it. And so we've all tried really hard to build the kind of culture within Boston Community Capital that we would like to see at the world at large. And so in the earlier days, before same-sex marriage was legal, first here in Massachusetts and then nationally, we put into place a set of benefits to assure that our LGBTQ employees were treated exactly the same as everyone else. So that it meant paying health insurance, it meant actually grossing up pay to cover the tax differential on that. Fortunately, those are the bad old days, and with a little luck, we won't go back there. But what we have continued to do is we try and very hard to create an environment in which people can have babies and raise their families and take care of their loved ones and their parents, and also live a lifestyle that's healthy. We actually have benefits for health and wellness and for environmental benefit as well. So if folks want to bike to work, we'll help them do that. If folks want to get T-passes, we'll help them do that. Personally, people go to the gym and we help them do that. For all of those reasons, we have people who have been with us a long, long time. Many of our employees have been with us now for periods measured in decades. And as a result, we get the benefit of that longevity. They get to be committed to a terrific organization. They get to stay on their own cutting edge because we do lots of new things. And so everybody is continued to be challenged. And I think it all is really works to the betterment of the communities and populations we're trying to serve.
There's one thing I want to let you give a little more attention to because it's somewhat new, and that's the help for homeowners to take advantage of solar power, solar energy, I think.
Sure. So what we're doing on the solar side is really one of the challenges in the affordable housing community or in the nonprofit community is because putting up solar and because those installations really require lots of financial expertise, which isn't necessarily resident in our communities, it tends to cost a lot more. And so what we've been able to do is to drive the cost of solar down by taking advantage of equity and tax credits and federal solar subsidy and state. There are these things called SRECs, which are a subsidy from the state. And so our focus has really been to use all of those instruments to get panels up on the roofs of affordable housing developments and also on the roofs of nonprofits.
Finally, Elyse, if homeowners want to get some information about how they can get help, is there a website that they can look at?
Sure, sunhomehelp.org.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Elyse Cherry from the Boston Community Capital.